Hi everyone, Darren Hunter here. Before we get into our podcast, just want to do a quick shout out for Inspection Manager. What an amazing inspection app platform that they have. And they're really excited at the moment with their tenant assisted routine inspections, where your tenants, in the convenience of their own time frame and in the convenience of their rental property, they can be getting you through the app inspections, their own inspection or their own photos that they've done. Now, this is going to help you, particularly if you're in lockdown. But what we've also found as businesses have come out of lockdown, they've found that perhaps they can do maybe one or even two of these inspections a year, aside from scheduling their normal routine inspections. The next step, really go and have a demo, have a look for yourself and make a decision where this could actually work for you too. So go to inspectionmanager.com, request a demo and check it out.
Hi everyone, you've got Deniz, Yusuf here and I have got Michael Sanz, and we have a guest speaker with us today on the BDM Coach podcast show. We've got Mr. Darren Hunter himself, and today we are going to be speaking about the 8 speed humps that stop great BDM growth. Darren, great to have you on board, buddy.
Thank you. And I think this is a good topic because, Deniz, we see a lot of BDMs out there and there's a lot of things that are holding them back. And you think if only they could be doing this, this, and this, and this, or this, and this, and this is a problem.
Yep.
They could be doing amazing. So we're going to be talking about those things that actually slow people and stop people reaching their BDM potential.
It's interesting, isn't it, Michael? Like, Michael and I are always like talking, and when we're training people in our Grow 100s and our IGT success programs, and we say, how did it go? And they give us these excuses of why they haven't done something. And these are the speed humps that we're going to be overcoming, because it's great that we can talk about growth and we can train on it. But there's always things that get in the way, and that's these speed humps are prime examples of what stops them from growing. Obviously, you know, you've got your circumstantial changes that you can't accommodate for, like a pandemic or, you know, someone getting sick. But we're talking about we've got the top 8 that we believe and what we've seen in our lives as coaches, and even, I mean, as a BDM, I came up with excuses as well. You know, we all do, right? So,
is there a fine line, though, of what we're going to go through to be calling them excuses?
Because these are also restrictions too that may not be the fault of the BDM, but very much the fault of the boss.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not always the individual, right? It's the stuff that drags people down. And I mean, you know, let's start with the first one. You know, the first one is, you know, when you're being distracted by managing properties. It's a no-brainer. If you're managing 50 properties, 100 properties, 200 properties, and you're trying to grow, or you're being assigned as the BDM, then you're going to struggle.
But what if it's a small agency that really wants to go through growth, and it's a legitimate excuse for someone to say, I've got 100 properties on a portfolio or 80 properties on a portfolio. I really want to do growth, but I can't do both. Right? Is that a legitimate roadblock for someone? And in that case, who should be responsible for growth? Should the owner of the business be doing the growth, or should the owner of the business be stepping in to do the property management so that person can focus on growth?
I think it's the first option, right? The owner of the business should be focusing on growth as well. You know, a lot of the tasks that are part of the growth of a BDM is tasks for a business to do. You know, a BDM should be out there prospecting for sure. However, the business owner should be assisting in setting up an information night. You know, that's stuff that you work together collectively. You know, so that, and they should also be involved in networking as well. You know, they've got their own network meetings that they should be doing on behalf of the company. You know,
so I come to you and you're my boss and I say, hey, Deniz, like, you know, we spoke about me doing BDM work and I love it and I'm so excited. I've been talking to the owners and everything. But, you know, when I talk to the owners, they just start talking to me about maintenance and issues with the property and tenants. And I'm trying to talk to them about, hey, have you got any other properties? I'm drowning here. You know, I don't like doing property management. I want to be doing growth. help me.
Yeah, well, firstly, by the sounds of it, if they're making these calls and all of these issues are coming up, there's other things that need to be fixed first before they focus on it, right? So, but the good sign is, in all of that, Michael, you're telling me you've got an enthusiastic worker that wants to focus on growth. That's one of the things that we covered in one of our other podcasts that we've got, that ticks the boxes of having the right skill set. Happy to get on the phone and they've got that enthusiasm. So obviously, no matter what anyone's going to do, if they're going to start focusing on growth, you've got to align the boxes. You've got to tick the I's and cross the T's and dot the I's as well.
So whatever, I know we'll discuss it, and sorry, I almost cut Darren off then. What if you as my boss said, okay, fine, Michael, I'll take care of the property management side of things and you focus on growth. So the investment has been made, or they bring on somebody else, admin to help, and it bombs and it burns the business owner from saying, oh, I can't do that again. I can't hire another growth person because it just didn't work. I think we're going to
cover that in some of the other factors.
We're going to cover them all.
Yeah, we're going to cover that in some of the factors, because that, how many times have we seen a business owner going, let's hire a BDM, we want to get into the growth, and they just hire the wrong person. And
I'm only asking these questions because I know there's going to be a lot of people listening to this that are going to be giving those excuses. I want them to know that it's not be all and end all. So I guess what we're going to cover now, listen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, managing properties, if you are managing properties at the same time, it's going to pull you away from doing the prospecting. It's going to take that time away. We often see, I'll be able to focus 2 days a week on growth. That's great. You've got 2 days. Darren, we see this all the time. Someone's going to focus 2 days on growth, but that's 3.5 days. If they're working half day Saturday, they're missing out on. So that's actually pulling them, that's distracting them from the growth. So that's why that this is an example of being that first point of that's a speed hump, is managing properties.
Let me just jump in here and also for our listeners, go to our last episode, which is episode 17, where we talk about 10 different ingredients and skills that are essential for employing the right person as a BDM. So we actually go down, these are all the ingredients you've got to look for if you're considering a property manager for the role or you're interviewing someone. Go to that because it's really good stuff. But I want to say that typically property management and managing property takes an enormous amount of brain energy and focus. And if we've got two focuses, now you might think, we'll just put 50% on BDM and 50% on managing properties and we'll do it. No, it's not like that. Managing property is going to take up 90% of their ability to think, because it is property management with chasing late rents and doing inspections and dealing with leasing and tenant inquiry, just swamps all of our thinking and consumes it. And it requires a person to do property management well has to be doing property management full time and focused on that. Otherwise, things are going to drop, things are going to get missed. So this is where typically you got a BDM thrown into the role. They're managing properties and they're doing BDM. Usually the BDM is simply just going to suffer. And it's not going to happen. And I really have to put it out there too. If bosses, now I get it, Michael's situation with a small agency, I understand that. But a lot of the time where property managers are managing property, the boss has also thought, they don't believe in the value of a BDM. They don't believe in the investment that's necessary to grow the rent roll for the future return, because it's not an immediate return, it's a future return of fee income and asset growth. They don't believe in that. So they still subconsciously think the BDM has to be on the tools earning income, and they lose sight of what the BDM is. And so the value from the boss really needs to understand the value. I just invite people, if you want to see the value of what a real BDM can really do, just get in touch with Deniz and Michael.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you're bringing up around that. And obviously the skill set of a property manager and the BDM are two different things. I mean, 90% of your brain cells die being a property manager, like you're saying, that thought process, 10% is not enough to focus on growth. You know,
it would just be, honestly, the BDM work will probably get shelved because those 50 properties or 60 properties or whatever will turn into full-time very quickly. It fills empty space so well.
I'd love to share an example of how, you know, similar to what Michael was saying, you know, it's a smaller agency. Well, here's a success story, and it could be a great example of how other agencies could do this. So I started training Shoshana when she had 100 properties. I think it was about 110 properties. And I rang the boss and I said, look, she can't do the performance, the task that I require her to do, because she's being bogged down doing property management. And he agreed to take 30 properties away from her. He took 30 away and I filled that 30 that time, right? And I said, look, once we get it up to 80, right? So once we get 10 more, I want you to take another 30 away. So that's how we slowly reduced her numbers. And when she got down to 50, I said, when she gets to 60, we're going to take 40 away. And because they were starting to see the results, she was being able to put the training in place. And then eventually when she had 0, she was listing over 20 properties a month, from 2 to 3.
And there were properties where they were earning several $1,000s, $3,000 to $4,000, $5,000 a year each in fee revenue. They were high rent properties, so the value was there. I think that's a great example there, Deniz, of, you know, the value of the position. Yeah,
spot on. So the second speed hump, you know, that we often see is when people are performing other roles. You know, so you might be the department head that's in charge of bringing in the new business, or it could be, you know, the department head similar to the senior property manager, or it could be a leasing agent that's bringing on the new business as well. You know, because if you're doing, again, it's a mix. It's similar to managing properties, but you're doing other tasks. You're being bogged down. You're being pulled away from being a BDM.
Deniz, I recall one BDM you were working with who was a star BDM that was also a leasing manager. And I'm not a BDM, right? I'm the property manager guy. And I was frustrated thinking if only they dropped that leasing, they would be at it. She would double her numbers, but they still just didn't get it.
So we're talking about Sarah Sancotta, right? Sarah listed 270 properties, right? And she was a leasing agent as well. Now she listed more properties in her the current 12 months that's just gone compared to the one before, because she used to have to do leasing and shared applications amongst all the other vacant properties. But they did start to cut it back, that she only had to lease her own properties that she was listing, you know, and then it got cut back to they took some of the applications away. And then each time they did a cutback, her numbers were increasing, which was great, but still being bogged down. I only can imagine the numbers she would have been doing if she was out there doing the networking, being able to run information nights. But, you know,
I reckon she would be doing 30 to 40 a month. If she was able to just do the role. But I just think even amazing her being a leasing officer, the amazing numbers that she still did was just awe-inspiring.
Yeah, and it was also another thing, part of the leasing, you know, was going to the property every time photos were taken, and we all know how much time that takes up.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, a great speed hump. You know, now I mean, we've done a whole podcast on the next.
We did. So everyone go to episode 17, which is the 10 essential skills and ingredients that makes a great BDM. But I think quickly, Deniz, one of the biggest mistakes I see out there is you get a call, or Michael gets a call from a boss saying, hey, look, I'm looking at moving the property manager into the BDM role, or the property manager's burnt out and is asked to be a BDM. And I know that there is a small amount of people out there that are property managers that make an amazing BDM. Shoshana was one. I know another lady that was excellent as well. But typically we see when that property manager type person that doesn't fit the 10 essential skills and ingredients, again, go to episode 17 of the BDM Coach podcast show, they don't fit that. What typically happens is that they're not salespeople. They're not hunters, they're shepherds. They sit around waiting for leads to get dropped onto their lap from salespeople. And they're not out there proactively generating leads. They're reactively waiting for them to be spoon-fed. And then when they do get these leads, they don't know how to compete for the business properly using points of difference because they're lacking points of difference, lacking sales skills. They simply go to the all-encompassing, well-used point of difference, the default of discounting. And I don't know, Dennis, what do you see out there?
Well, I mean, the speed hump of not being fit for the job or the position, you're right. It's certainly some, property managers can make a great BDM. I mean, Michael's a perfect example of that. He was an all-in-one. He managed properties and did the BDM work,
Tried not to complicate the process though. And I think so many places are complicating the process, and there's that mindset of someone that's trying to move from PM to BDM that it's got to be a certain way. I need clear airspace. I need a fresh runway so I can launch. But the reality is, in a small business, there's handover, there's grace period, there's all these things that tying the person back. Again, excuses, right? And so then that's going to come back down to the boss, the person in charge, to free up the resource. So the person can do it. And I think touching on what you guys have been saying, if you can allow the person the opportunity to do growth, don't put a handbrake on them from doing it. Don't give the person an excuse why they can't succeed. Like Deniz, if you said to me, Michael, yep, you can now do BDM, it's all yours, own it. This is your structure and everything, but I still need you to be helping out Darren with the property management. I know, because he's going to take over some of your properties. And I still need you to be on call because you know everything about that portfolio and all the owners. So you can do the growth, but just make sure you're always in contact with Darren.
And can you do the applications as well?
Yeah, because, you're seeing the people, the tenants, that can you do that as well, just helping Darren? And Darren's like, Michael, 1 Smith Street, the owners that only want to deal with you there. Like, what do you want me to do? I'll do it. I'll do it. Send me the number and I'll do it.
Yeah, you fall back into that comfort zone, right?
And then you get burnout because you're doing all these roles. And how many BDMs do we see leaving a company when they've transitioned because they're not getting that opportunity in the company that they love? And they go to a company that says, I just want you to do BDM. And they're torn. They're leaving the company that they love and going to another company, and they're kicking goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, being not fit, the right fit for the job, this speed hump, Darren, I'm fairly certain that you've done sessions and you've got a quote on, being a property manager, you've got the same 7 personality traits of a police officer or something, which is completely, and I'll let you explain it, right, but it's completely different from a salesperson. The police officers, like the shepherd, we've got to have the authority, et cetera, but you are like a shepherd in guiding and keeping people in check. That's not a salesperson.
Well, let's just dispel the myth really quickly. Guys, we work in real estate, and a lot of real estate agencies do sales as well as property management. The BDM person, if they're really good at BDM, means that they'll be a good salesperson. Also, can I just state, it doesn't mean that BDM role is second place to sales. It's just as important. Don't just think, oh, well, hang on, we'll graduate you to sales now. My goodness me, what does that say about your value towards property management? There's so much that can be earned for the business with asset growth, with fee growth, all of those sort of things are the good BDM. Why do you suddenly want to go, oh, we'll drop them into sales now?
Yeah, look, the BDM is the salesperson for property management. And you're right, they are not secondary. It's a great segue. Leasing agent, BDM to sales, that's a great segue for someone that's really serious and wanting to get into sales. That's that career improvement, which is really good for you.
So if I can just say before we go on to the next speed hump, is that for bosses, if you know what a good real estate salesperson looks like, and you go, hey, you think they'll be good for sales? Well, that's a BDM. Let's just dispel the myth. If you feel that they would be good for real estate sales, then they're good for BDM. But if you're with a property manager and you're thinking, I'll make them to a BDM, but hell no, I'd never put them into sales. Well, that tells you they're not a right fit for a BDM.
And in that, bosses, I'm sick of training amazing BDMs and them going into sales and being really successful. I mean, Jessie Hall comes to mind. I mean, what a great BDM she was, and now she's crushing it in sales. You know, I had a conversation with her a few months back, and she's going, "I'm glad you pushed me to do those videos and take selfies out the front of police signs, you know, because it's what she's doing in sales and doing really well with it too, you know." So yeah, look, it's typically, you know, a really good example of the difference between sales and property management is a car lot, a car yard. You've got your salesperson that's out the front that knows the differences between the different vehicles and the points of differences of one company to another, and they know how to, you know, be personable. They've got the sales skills, the negotiation skills, etc., and you know, all of those skills that we spoke about in the last podcast. And then it gets, you know, for someone to look after the vehicle once it's sold, it's the mechanic, the person that knows the nuts and bolts of the vehicle. When something goes wrong, they know how to fix it. The salesperson will look at the motor and just, well, it's a 3.6 fuel injected, blah, 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 but the mechanic knows what to do. The mechanic knows, you know, and they know how to negotiate too. Property managers are very good negotiators. Let's not, you know, what they have to negotiate the rent to come in. They've got to negotiate, no, you can't have 16 dogs, 4 cats and 3 birds. No, you can't have, you know, parties every night, etc. So that they are very skilled, but the key is that nuts and bolts of the vehicle, should we say.
So let's move on to the next speed hump, because I know that looking at the rest here, this is very much you and Michael. The performing relief duties. How many times have we seen a BDM's getting traction? You give them a call, hey, going, oh, sorry, the property manager's on sick leave, I've had to jump in, or the property manager went on annual leave, I'm now filling in. Suddenly all their momentum's gone out of that, you know, their pipeline of all those things is now, it's just, they've lost so much momentum that the rug is being pulled out from under them. And again, it is a reflection of possibly the boss with a lack of value around the BDM position and what it's for, what it stands for, and what it can do. And because they feel, well, the BDM really is a top-heavy expense to the business, overlooking the investment. Now, look, if they're poorly performing, fair enough. But if they're performing well, why stop the momentum?
Yeah. Oh, look, you know, personally, Darren, if, you know, our leasing agent had too many people that was at a viewing, you know, I would have to go and help. You know, sometimes the girls would be doing too many ingoing or condition reports for a property, and they would scream at me, stop listing properties, you need to come and help me, you know, because I've got 4 people to move in today, you know, and it does, it takes you away. It was good for me to feel their pain, and I'd go on them and keep updated on what was going on, because I'd be then selling that to the owner. So it kept me in check, but it did take me away from, you know, when you're doing those relief duties. A lot of the time, it's sometimes if the BDM's not performing well, right, which is going to go into the next speed hump, they will naturally go back, oh, I will help. And they're happy to put their hand up. Yeah, I'll do those applications for you. Or, yeah, you know, so it's not always the boss, you know, it's sometimes the actual BDM. And then you've got to go back to the last speed hump that we brought up, and are they the right fit for the job as well? So, you know, so these do entwine together. So, you know, the relief duties, yeah, you've really got to
be careful. If it's the right move, fair enough, but you've got to understand that if they've got momentum, you're going to kill it. Now, the next speed hump is not having the right incentives. Now, firstly, let me just say, if you had good incentives in place for your BDM to go out there and list properties, they're not going to fall into those other tasks. They're going to say, no, I'm not doing leasing, I'm doing growth, you know. Because that's where the money is. Yeah.
A lot of salespeople are driven by money, good BDMs, they also are as well. Now, let me just say, please check your legislation on incentives and your country and your states and all of that. You know, on any incentives that you've got in place. We have got another podcast on incentives and bonus structures as well, that you can go back and have a listen to. But if you don't have the right incentives in place, there's no motivational drive. An example incentive I see, Darren and Michael, is a particular number has to be met. Let's say it's 10. They've got to list 10 properties and then they'll get their bonus for the month. I see in agencies that we go around to, they hit the 10 and they're always around that 10, 12. Then they might go 9, then they go 13, and then they're on 10. A lot of the time, the BDMs, they hit that 10 mark, right? And then they just build up their leads, getting in, preparing it for the next month. So having good incentives so they want to keep achieving more and more and more. I don't recommend having a number. I recommend having lots of numbers. And it might scale it up. The more you list, the more bonuses you get. So have a look at those incentives. The package.
You're going to jump in here. Episode 13 in the BDM Coach podcast show. Michael and Deniz have done a whole show on incentives, how to pay BDM. So make sure you go and have a good listen to that.
Yeah, I mean, we also see incentives for property managers in listing properties, as well. And a boss might say, yeah, but my PMs, they're paid in incentive. But a PM being paid incentives, great. It's fantastic. However, it's still creating a lot of work for them. So they don't have that motivation or that urgency to want to grow, So that's where a BDM with the right incentives, they're going to be hungry. They're going to be motivated. They're going to have that urgency to keep working, as long as they don't have to do the ingoings and all of the other tasks around it that'll bog them down, So that's why these speed humps, they really segue well together.
No, that's cool. So I'm moving on to the next speed hump here, lack of accountability and coaching. Now, again, I'm not the BDM experts and growth experts like, both you and Deniz and Michael are, but I remember so many times you're sitting with teams and they're just lacking growth. They're doing all the wrong things, but they just are not knowing what to do. Now, Deniz, you signed up 945 doors in 4 years in a small country town of only
925.
925 doors.
Don't oversell me now, Darren.
In 4 years in a small country town of a population of 23,000. That is amazing. And yet there would have been people, not even BDMs, that would be doing 1 or 2 or 3 growth a month in the same town. And the difference is strategy and accountability. But how much different, Deniz, does accountability and coaching change the gameplay?
Oh, massively. One of the things that we often hear people say is they feel like I'm on their shoulder as their coach. I'm in a house and they're going, okay, Deniz is tapping me on the shoulder saying, ask for the business, or, okay, I've got to do my follow-ups. That's that accountability that keeps it in place.
The angel or the devil?
Well, I mean, I think between the two of us, we do mix it up. Sometimes you're the devil and I'm the angel.
I think just by providing people with some structure, then that's part of their process, so they can start to understand that if you do these things, and we clearly see the difference between those that have structure. And for example, we have that 100-point checklist, more than 100 points a day. But I liken it to when I was in hospitality. And when you're in hospitality, there's never nothing for you to do. Like, even if everything is polished and, there's no clients in the restaurant and it looks like there's nothing to do, there is always something to be doing. Preparing for the next day, the day after that, seeing what bookings you got in advance, calling up previous clients, seeing if they want to come back to the restaurant. Same with property management and growth. There's always something that they can be doing. And I guess when they're lacking that accountability, lacking that structure, at minimum, if you don't engage, someone like Inspired Growth Training to help coach your business development, the business owner needs to have minimum standards for the BDM to be achieving every day, every week, every month, right? It's unfair if you say, great, Deniz, you're now the BDM. I want you to go and pick up new growth. You might be enthusiastic. You might have the right attitude, but where do I start?
Yeah.
What do I do? Well, just call people, go to the yellow pages or white pages and call people. But often, if there's no coaching or no accountability, people are blind. They don't know where to start. And it's that scattergun approach, which doesn't work because you're trying to recruit every single person out there, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Guys, what great athlete has there ever been that's achieved amazing things, whether it's tennis or out on the field, the track, whatever? What athlete has ever achieved greatness that didn't have a coach and simply went out and just went under their own motivation, their own steam, without accountability? It just doesn't exist. You can't get amazing results. Yet people go, well, I can't afford a coach. But a coach is going to get you 3, 4, 5, 10 times better results than you do it on your own. You're actually losing money. You got to invest in a coach to get those amazing results. Now, if you aren't getting amazing results, well, don't, of course, but you need a coach. And I've seen with you guys, we've seen people that have come up through the coaching that I know that they would not have achieved, like Mel and Pat in New Zealand. They wouldn't have got on the phone and called their 450 clients and found 220 doors.
Yep.
Since then, they've signed up probably about 50 now. That would not have occurred. Those 50 properties would not have occurred if it wasn't for your coaching and accountability.
It's an interesting one, Darren, because everyone knows that they've got owners with multiple properties, but nothing's getting done about it. Or they may just do a simple call and ring them and say, oh, you've got another property, I want to manage it, which isn't the right approach, and that's where that training comes in place, and then that accountability as well. And often, example with our grow clients, we went, we're 3/4 of the way through one of the courses, but we went back to the beginning because we knew they weren't doing the stuff. So we went straight back to the KPIs and said, guys, you got to complete this form. That happens. And that's what that accountability is good as well. And it's interesting because 2 or 3 of the BDMs have messaged me saying, oh, wow, like I can sense that my numbers are picking up again. My traction, and it works. That, like you said, the best sports people in the world have got multiple coaches.
Where I see failure around that accountability and coaching and so on, and we've seen it before where someone started off and they don't know what to do, and they get coaching or they get accountability, and all of a sudden they start flying. They get these ideas and they're bringing in new business, and then they say, hey guys, I'm good. I don't need coaching anymore. I don't need the accountability. I know what I'm doing. And then they've got a pipeline. All of a sudden, the pipeline dries up. How often, do we get calls from people saying, hey, I've hit the wall. I'm in a lull. I don't know what I should be doing at the moment. Without quiffing back, of course. It's people need that accountability. You just can't do these things without that push, that consistent push. That next, it's like at the gym, at my gym, every kilo extra, it could be 100 kilos I'm trying to lift. But that 101, 102 kilos, I need help.
Yeah.
I need someone to say, Michael, you've got this, you can do this. Staring at me in the eye, making me think, oh, I have to do this. I can't take failure.
Yeah.
And we need coaches too. I mean, we've got a coach, Shani. She does amazing. And I honestly, I know that we wouldn't be able to achieve the results that we've got now as a business. It wasn't for Shani on our backs, driving us, showing us what the next step's going to be, keeping us focused on that, not allowing us to get distracted. And Deniz, what about the investor support services? What an amazing strategy of where you worked out how to connect with property investors in the market before they bought a rental property. So by connecting with them, forming that relationship, by the time they actually buy, you've got the business. And the sales agent that sold it is now referring the business over to their property management department, but it's too late. You've already got the business as one of their competitors. And that strategy there, you coach Julie Collins on it. She's now doing 10 to 12 a month on that strategy. We've got Amy Robinson from Toowoomba that learned from and coached under you guys with that. She's doing, 10 plus a month just on that strategy. You can't achieve this stuff without a coach. By the way, everyone, if you want to learn about the investor support services, just go to grow100strategy.com. Deniz goes through, we just go through how that strategy works. Very simple. It's actually a strategy that's hidden in plain sight, but grow100strategy.com. to learn that. But guys, if you want to be serious about BDM and growth, you've got to have a coach to show you how to get amazing results quickly, or you're going to get lackluster results over a long period of time.
Yeah, and Darren, this segues into, you know, the seventh speed hump, which is not working the right strategies and KPIs. You know, Michael touched on it before, where the boss says, you know, call the yellow pages, call the white pages. I mean, I haven't heard white and yellow pages mentioned in a long time, but it's the truth. It's so old-fashioned, right? You know, we put in place with our coaching clients a lead form that they've got to complete. So we would need to know where their leads have been coming from. It also helps us ascertain what they're converting as well. You know, so the you know, knowing the right strategies so you can, you know, can guide them in the right direction. You know, one thing I did a post on my social media today on Instagram about newsletters. You know, the newsletters, I don't know how many property managers don't have a newsletter. You know, that's a KPI, having a newsletter.
Most businesses don't have a newsletter or any type of content or information going out that's useful to their prospect.
Yeah, a door knocking, letterbox drops. You know, sales agents are doing this because it works. Multi-million-dollar companies are doing this because it works. You know, Bunnings, Chemist Warehouse, Woolies, Coles, you know, they are doing letterbox drops because it works. It's top of mind. You know, you should be showcasing. They're just a couple of examples of KPIs. There's bigger KPIs. You mentioned Mel and Pat calling current clients. You know, that's a KPI. Strategic alliance, sales agents, investor support services. These are all KPIs. And if sometimes, you know, the BDMs, they'll focus on the shiny things to do. They think, you know, but it's the hard working ones and the consistency that gets the results, right? And that's having the coach, you know, that accountability in place with the KPIs that guide you around it. You know,
we got to plug your book, Deniz, because I was with the team yesterday in Adelaide, went out for a cup of coffee, always up for a free cup of coffee. And they were puzzled or confused about, hey, what should I be doing? I gave them your book.
Did you sign it for me?
The PM Lead Secrets. No, I didn't forge your signature, but the PMLeadsecrets.com. The book is free, just pay shipping. But Deniz, 40 plus ways, different strategies, techniques, endless ways to generate property management, consistent quality leads. Why wouldn't you want to know what strategies work for you right now, like you've got in that book?
Yeah, look, and there's more than 40 ways to grow a rent roll. They're just 40 that we've covered, you know, and they all, as you do one of the strategies, you know, you put them all into place, it creates other strategies that you learn and you can flow in together. But, you know, the book, it's a great book. It was, you know, close to my heart, and I look forward to writing the next one as well.
We'll be working on next 6 months or so. We'll be working on winning the business secrets, and that's all about what to do as soon as the phone rings. So I'm really excited about that one. There's so much to share in that, and that will be authored by all three of us. So
there is, yep, absolutely, and I'm really excited about that. And obviously, we've got your book, Darren. You know, the latest one.
About to go to print. The PMFeeScriptsSecrets.com. That's every fee objection that you'll ever face. And how to win the business without discounting, because Deniz, discounting is a scourge in our industry. And this book is all about how to win your fees without discounting, no matter how aggressive your rivals are and how low they want to go. You don't need to play that race to the bottom. So as everyone can see, I'm a very good promoter, and it is a good book because I wrote it, PMFeeScriptsSecrets.com. But let's move on, Deniz. We've got this last speed hump, which is
it's a killer.
How can a BDM be confident and enthusiastic if they are not confident in the quality of the property management team that's working behind them?
So you're saying, sorry, Michael, you go.
So we had this as an excuse probably in the last 12 months from a property manager, where there was a large team, a number of BDMs, and they were saying their numbers were down because they didn't have faith in the work that the PM team were doing. For example, they weren't doing inspections to the same level that the inspection reports, the same level that the BDM is doing them. They weren't confident that the team were calling owners back. There was a whole range of excuses, and their numbers were suffering from it. I think their numbers were suffering from they were embarrassed to do the new business. I think if they kind of split their mind and kind of said, no, I'm here to bring on new business, they would have done exceptionally well. But that's a problem. That is a definite problem, where the PM department and the BDMs aren't really talking and communicating, and the business owners need to be made aware that this is a reason, and then dissecting that as an issue. There's no excuse why a BDM shouldn't be bringing in business, right? Like they're there to sell. They need to be bringing in, but there needs to be active communication within the whole department and the whole team saying, this is the feedback that I've got. If it's just because the BDM is particular and thinks that the level of work the PMs are doing aren't at the same level as what the BDM would be doing, that's just perfectionism, right? Like that's perfectionism, and that's a problem in itself. We see this as a problem, and no doubt there's BDMs out there that think that they can do the job a lot better. But I think stay in your lane. If you're a BDM, you're there to sell. Communicate openly with the boss, with the team. This is the feedback. This is the issues that I'm getting. It's making me hard to speak confidently about your abilities. We need to work on this. I'll still keep selling, but what are we going to do?
Yeah, great point. Because if the BDM is out, doing a presentation at the person's house, and they're not selling from their heart, that comes out. The owners, the investors, they can sense, hang on a minute, I don't feel like this person's freely selling our services here. It's like, Darren, you love Baileys. You love Baileys. Everyone, if you ever see Darren at the bar, buy him a Baileys.
Well, if they want to take me out and get some advice, bring a bottle of Baileys, and I'll take that as my,
you love your
payment.
Baileys.
I've done that before, and it works really well.
Loose lips sink ships. Just be.
Darren likes his Baileys, but if you were to ask Darren to sell tequila, he's got to walk into the house and tell someone why they should buy tequila. He's going to struggle. But if you tell him to go to sell Baileys, that freeness, did you hear him pop in? He cut me off and he was all excited and a big grin on his face. If you're watching this on video, it's easy to sell something that you have full faith in. It's the same as chocolate, food, pizza. You get me talking about food, and I'll and Michael especially talking about different cuts of meats, he will sell it. But if you
what about I really believe in you guys and how good you are as coaches, and that's obviously the fuel that helps me write all those email marketing that I do. Yep. And push you guys and push IGT, because I absolutely believe that we've got the best rent roll growth coaching on the planet, period.
Thank you, Darren.
I do. I actually believe that. I believe that to be true. I don't see as, you guys second to anyone else. You are very good. We are very good at fees and growth and all that. So we do have that self-belief that comes through with confidence and enthusiasm, because we know our stuff.
And a BDM has to have the same thing, not use it as an excuse, but they really, you've got to have good culture within the office. You've got to, and the BDM, as a BDM myself, I used to be in charge of the culture of integrity real estate. I used to, go buy coffees for the team if they need it, create competitions and, et cetera, and keep the joy. I had a box. I had a blue box, a sandwich box. I had chocolates in it. I had the goodies choc. You could call anyone. There was a photo on my timeline the other day. I was making a cup of tea for Leah. She actually messaged me today saying, I came up in my timeline. You were making me a cup of tea. Mate, if I needed her to perform and just making a cup of tea was going to help relieve her, that was easier for me to sell her when she's happy. So it's really important to have those right systems in place so your team is happy, so they're performing better, and then your BDM can be out there selling the services of the PM department with no speed hump.
Let's wrap this up. So we've covered 8 speed humps that restrict great BDM growth results. Alrighty, is that, you know, as long as you've got the right person doing the right things, they're going to do amazing things. These are the 8 things that can slow that position and results down. And just as a bit of a wrap up, some of the things we referred to, of course, go to episode 17, which is the 10 essential ingredients and skills that makes a good BDM. So what does the right person look like? We've also got episode 13 where Michael and Deniz, you go through the different pay structures and incentives that to incentivize a BDM. Really good episode there. We talked about the PM Lead Secrets book. So go to pmleadsecrets.com. Got my new book about to be released on, it's probably the most detailed book ever written on fee objections, and also 34 fees and fee packages charged over Australia, New Zealand, United States. Just go to pmfeesecrets.com. Both those books are free, just pay for shipping. And finally, Deniz, that amazing strategy, investor support services, and how to dominate in your market, how to have your rivals throw rocks at you upset because now you're taking the lion's share of new business. Just go to the grow100strategy.com and we go through how that works and how it can work for you as well. So good episode, guys. Well done. I think the BDM Coach podcast show is becoming that toolbox for people and how to get the right person growing the rent roll.
Yeah, I want to round out. Let's cover the things that we've gone over in closing it out. And remember, they all segue through to each other. There's a, you know, imagine if you had a property manager that was doing all of these things and trying to grow. That's why you're only going to be growing 1 or 2 properties. You know, Darren, you've got marketing out there going, and I'm in all of these interviews with people, seeing if they qualify for our coaching, and they're all having all of these problems. And that's, you know, a big area of where we've got it. So, you know, they're being distracted by managing properties, performing other roles, not right fit for the job, not a right fit for the job, you know, performing relief roles, relief positions within the business, not on the right incentive package, a lack of accountability in coaching, not working the right strategies and KPIs, the BDM not happy with the PM, bad service, bad culture, whatever it is. All of those speed humps, when you read them out in one go, it's quite daunting. You know, no wonder a lot of businesses aren't growing if they don't have a specific BDM 100% focused on growth.
Yeah, well done.
Everyone out there, if your business isn't on fire, give us a call.
Yeah, absolutely. Get in touch with us. Go to inspiredgrowthtraining.com. Just go to contact us, and our team will plug you in very quickly with Deniz. If you want to talk about growth, we'll talk about fees, they'll plug you in with me. So great podcast, guys. Well done. And thanks, everyone. And we'll see you in the next show.
Yeah, Darren, thanks for being a guest. You took over the show and it was great. You're just so passionate about the industry. You know, it's a prime example of the forward of the book that I've written for you. You are so passionate for people to do really well, and you've got so much care. And these speed humps is what stops amazing performance for better of the industry. So thanks for being on board with us.
No worries. Okay, take care, everyone.